need ribs to ease my day. I need to find time to cook them right. My papa said, can't hurry ribs. No, you just have to wait. He said ribs.
And now, at your service, here to help you cook and eat like royalty is the barbecue whisperer and hedonism evangelist from AmazingRibs.com, the planet's biggest and baddest barbecue and grilling website, Meathead.
Boiled slabs must I stand before I find the crunch to let me live again. Right now
Well, I see we have Andy Seymour from Traverse City, and he's talking about the Cherry Festival, and that just prompted a good story. And, you know, I've never been able to resist telling a good story. Years ago, my wife and I went up to northern Michigan, up to Traverse City. There's this little peninsula that sticks up into the lakes up in Traverse City, and they grow the most marvelous cherries. And I bought about 2 bushels of dark, rich black cherries, brought them back, and when I was going to make cherry wine, and we pressed them and filtered them and poured the juices into 5-gallon glass carboys and added the yeast and put the fermentation lock on top, and it was bubbling away and smelling fantastic. And one day my wife and I went downtown Chicago for something, and when we came back, the 5-gallon carboy had exploded. And we had 5 gallons of the stickiest, messiest cherry juice all over our kitchen floor. And that ended my home winemaking. I would have liked to have tried it again, but I was told no. In fact, I was told no again tonight. I got another quick story. I've been playing a lot with pizza making. I got 2 new pizza ovens to test, and I was going to test one tonight, and I got all set up, made the dough and everything, and was ready to go. And it's really pouring outside, and I was going to use propane to fire these pizza ovens with, and it turns out I was out of propane. So I decided, okay, I'm going to cook it indoors. Well, if you've ever done homemade pizzas and done it from scratch, there's so much technique involved, and one of the key techniques is the flick. The flick is when you've got the pizza on the peel, which is that big paddle that you've got, and you want to get it onto the hot stone to cook. You've got to learn how to get it off of the peel, and it wants to stick to the peel because the pizza's wet and the peel is either wood or metal. And if you do it right, you get enough flour down there and it's kind of slippery. And you put the peel at the back of the stone and you yank it so that the pizza just slides off, like when you pull the tablecloth out from under the table settings, and the pizza just lands right in the middle of the stone. And I did that today, and for some reason or other, the pizza didn't just land in the middle of the stone. It kind of jumped to the edge of the stone, and a little corner of the pizza was hanging over the end of the stone. And there was this fresh mozzarella blob on it, and it was hanging over, and I was freaking out. I was panicking. So I got the peel underneath, and I was trying to pull it back, but it was still wet, and it wasn't firm enough to pull, and it started to tear, and I had to reach in the oven and pull the thing out, and the doggone mozzarella fell to the bottom of the stove and started smoking like the dickens, set off all the smoke alarms. Oh my God. So I was told today I'm not doing pizza in the oven ever again. Oh, jeez. Well, thank goodness I've got 2 really good outdoor pizza ovens to play with. Yeah, Gary says he puts cornmeal in. That cornmeal is good. The problem wasn't getting it off the stone, which is usually a problem. I mean, getting it off the peel. That's a problem for a lot of rookies, and you learn you don't flick and pull. You just put it at the back and then you pull forward. For those of you who think I am some sort of barbecue and grilling and pizza genius, there is proof. I'm not. So, Here's a quiz question. How many of you have found where your spouse has hidden the candy? I did. I found the candy today. Mm-hmm. I found the candy bar I'd never tasted before. I'm digging in my trash to get the label. What the heck is it called? It's really good. Here it is. 100 grand. 100 grand. I'd never tasted 100 grand before. They're really good. They're kind of like a, I don't know, they got some caramel in there and some crunchy stuff. And they were really good. I never had them before. Shh, don't tell my wife I found them. And today's 28th. I got 2 more days before Halloween. So how many pounds will I gain before Halloween and after? Well, today I thought I would start off, for those of you who've joined me with these in the past, I usually start off on a topic that I want to expound upon and that might stimulate you. And then we'll deal with all your questions, and it doesn't have to be on the topic. It can be on anything. But I thought tonight I would start off talking about tailgating, because it is football season. And it's just a lot of fun going to a game. I'm a Gator, Florida Gator, and boy, I tell you, going to the University of Florida and the tailgate, 90,000 people and the tailgate parties, and of course this week the Gators are playing number 1 Georgia in Jacksonville, which is supposed to be a neutral site. And if you read the history of tailgating, they almost always say that it really started with the Florida-Georgia game, which is known as the world's largest, greatest outdoor cocktail party. And it is just a blast, and it's going to be amazing. It's roughly equidistant from both campuses. And, of course, Georgia being number 1, and the Gators there's a talented team there, but they've struggled a bit this year. I'm not going to get into the reasons why. But in any case, it should be a fun game. And tailgating is just, I love to get to the game early and set up and cook for my friends and family. And then after the game is over, instead of battling the traffic, cook again. If we do it right, people don't have to spend a fortune on the hot dogs and stuff at the stadium. So my technique and my advice is get there early. Get there several hours early. Now, there's 3 ways you can go about things. You can do all your cooking at the tailgater, or you can cook in advance and bring it warm in a hot box, or it's a beer cooler, which works just fine as a hot box. Or you can cook partially in advance and bring it to the stadium that way. If you're going to cook on the site, stuff like burgers, hot dogs, brats. I love doing brat tubs. I live in northern Illinois now, just outside Chicago, and the folks up in Wisconsin have mastered the art of brat tubs. It starts with simmering the brats in beer and then grilling. And I fiddled with it, and I fiddled with it, and I fiddled with it. I came up with a really nice technique, which is on AmazingRibs.com, where it simmers both in beer and a mustard and onion blend. And it actually does penetrate. We tested this because I was skeptical that it would penetrate, but it does. When you're done, you get this marvelous mustard and beer and onion sauce that's been seasoned with the juices from the brat and the seasoning and the flavor and the fat and such. And that's a really nice recipe, and I love it, and I strongly recommend it. So if you want to do brat tubs, go over there to AmazingRibs.com and look up the recipe for my brat tub. Hamburgers and hot dogs, I have good tips for hot dogs. One of my favorite techniques is you get that hot dog and you get a knife and you slice it with an X in the top. so the end kind of opens up like a flower. And then when you grill it, those ends get really good and crunchy and crispy. That's my favorite little trick for hot dogs. And instead of laying them across the grill grates and rolling them around so you get the grill mark, I lay them with the grill grates so you can roll them a quarter turn each time, and you get exactly quarter turns on all sides, and they're cooked evenly. Now the grill marks run vertically rather than horizontally. It looks a little weird, but it actually tastes a little better. That's one of my favorite techniques. And then I have a whole section on the site about toppings and things that you can do with that. And one of the fun things to do for a hot dog party is it's really interesting. Now, hamburgers are made all over the country, and everybody has their own technique. But there are regional styles for hot dogs. There's the Chicago hot dog, which has 7 specific ingredients, none of which is ketchup. There's a hot dog joint in Chicago. I remember when I first moved here, I walked in and I got fries, and I knew about the hot dogs without ketchup rule in Chicago, but I wanted ketchup for the fries, and I asked the guy who handed me my hot dog and bag of fries, "Do you have ketchup?" And he looked at me kind of sternly, and he said, "It's over there." And there was a big jug of ketchup with a pump on there, and he says, "Ruin it yourself." You got the Cincinnati dog, which has got a chili and shredded cheddar cheese. You got the LA Dodger dog, the Seattle dog, and I actually have an article on AmazingRibs.com called Hot Dog Road Trip, where I have traveled a lot, and wherever I go, I try the local hot. Cause I'm a sucker for hot dogs. I just love hot dogs. And I've tried them all over the country, and the Rhode Island up the arm hot dogs, and I have the story and the pictures of regional hot dogs, and it's just a lot of fun, and that's a fun idea for a party. If you don't want to make a big deal out of cooking for the crowd at a tailgater, you just bring a bunch of hot dogs and buns, and then you bring all the toppings so people can make themselves a Dodger dog or a Seattle dog or a Cincinnati dog or a Chicago dog or a New York coney or a Detroit coney, where they top it with a ground meat, kind of a chili sauce made from beef heart. Yeah, beef heart. And it's just a lot of fun, and there's a lot of regional history. And, of course, almost every city has a hot dog maker, somebody who grinds and makes hot dogs. Hamburgers, anybody can just go out and buy meat and grind it up. You don't have regional hamburger styles. And it's just a lot of fun, and I think that's a great, easy tailgate party theme where people, and of course, if you're playing the team from Seattle, then you cook their hot dog and you devour. The primitive tribes used to devour their enemy. They'd kill one of the enemies and eat the enemy. So here you go. You can devour a Seattle hot dog if you're playing Seattle. Or if you're playing Cincinnati, you can serve Seattle or Cincinnati hot dogs and devour the enemy. That's just a lot of fun. You can do stuff like ribs and pulled pork, but ribs can take 4 to 6 hours depending on the cut and how you're going to do them. And you can cook them and throw them in a hot box like a beer cooler, and wrap them in foil and wrap them in a blanket or a towel and put them in a beer cooler and keep them warm and bring them to the party. And if you've got a grill, throw them on the grill to warm them and sauce them, and that's okay. It's a bit of a rigmarole. It's not quite the same as serving them hot off the smoker, but it works pretty good, and you can do that. I rarely do. I like now pulled pork is a little easier. You can do a whole pork butt and wrap that and take it and then shred it and serve sandwiches and pour some sauce over it. One of my favorite things to do at actually, I have a picture here. Let's see. I think I have a picture. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's see. I've learned how to do screen sharing with this thing. Let's see. Here we go. Get off of there. All right. Oh, there we go. Okay, now I got it. Let's see if I can do this. All right. Where's the screen share? I think that's it. Yeah. Flank steak. Can you see that? I love doing flank steak. You can cook a flank steak in 30 minutes, and you don't have to mess with it. I did this one on a hibachi, a $30 hibachi, a beautiful flank steak with a nice rub, and just high heat. Sear the snot out of it, slice it thin, and boy, people just love it. They think you're doing, something special. Just sear that hibachi, that flank steak up. There's yours truly slicing those flank steaks. That's just a lot of fun. I love doing flank steak, and everybody loves steaks. Now, one of the cool things about our little website that you'll find handy is we have a page devoted to a tailgating checklist. Things you got to remember to bring with you when you go to the game. You don't want to do, you don't want to forget the tickets. So let's see. There we go. There's the checklist. Okay, and it's a big long checklist. Apron, basting brush, binocular. Don't forget the binoculars. Bin for washing and rinsing. Bleach solution in a spray bottle to clean the surfaces. Can openers, bottle openers, corkscrews, buns, camera. It's just got everything in here. Fire extinguishers. But you can just print this out because you always forget something, like the tickets. So there's a good checklist for tailgating. And autumn is just the best time for tailgating. So those are just some thoughts about how I like to tailgate, and I'm up here. My wife did her undergraduate work at Northern Illinois University, which is in DeKalb, just an hour and a half or so west of Chicago. We go out there. The stadium only seats about 30,000, and it's just fun. They have a decent team most years, and it's easy to park near the stadium and walk to the game. And we bring the family, and everybody brings something, side dishes. It's just a lot of fun. So with all of that, let's see what you guys have to say, and we'll start dealing with your questions on various things. Kyle Lang was one of the first folks in this evening, and he comments, dry brining has changed the game for me. For those of you who don't know what dry brining is, brining is the process of putting salt on the meat. And salt is the magic rock. You've probably heard me say this, but it bears repeating. We're warned about eating too much salt, but you don't normally get too much salt if you salt things yourself. It's the food that you get at the fast food restaurants and in other restaurants that are very heavily seasoned and heavily salted. And I've got it on the website somewhere. I don't remember the numbers. But if you salt things yourself, and our rule of thumb is a half a teaspoon per pound of meat of kosher salt, Martin's kosher salt. It's way under your daily limit. And if you sprinkle it on in advance, one of the things that's happening is salt, just two little atoms, sodium and chloride. When they get wet, they get an electrical charge called ionization, and they can move deep into the meat, and they actually alter the proteins, called denaturing the protein, and it helps them hold on to moisture, and it amplifies the flavor. It's like turning the dial up to 11, as they say, and the flavor really is improved, and you're not going to get too much salt if you do it that way. And So you do it a couple hours in advance for like a steak or a burger or something, an hour in advance. Chicken, an hour or two. But bigger, thicker pieces of meat, things like a pork loin or a turkey breast, you might need to do 5-6 hours. And I've got some rules of thumb. Go to AmazingRibs.com and look up dry brining, and it'll teach you about the concept. But it's just as good as wet brining, which is what everybody used to do for turkey and at Thanksgiving. And I want to tell you, dry brining is just going to save you a lot of headache. A lot of people would get their turkeys and they'd take this bucket or a beer cooler and fill it with water and salt and apple juice and black pepper and garlic and drown the turkey in there for overnight. And then you had to put ice bags in there to keep it cold and make it safe. And it just was a rigmarole. All you have to do is sprinkle it with salt. Pepper, the molecules are too large. They can't penetrate. Sugar can't penetrate. Garlic can't penetrate. All that stuff is just a surface treatment. You put it on the surface of the meat, and it doesn't matter when. You can put it on just before you cook because it's not going in. And if you don't believe me, you can test it yourself. Get yourself a turkey breast. Put every spice and herb on the spice rack on the turkey breast. Cook it, and then cut it in half and take a core sample, and you won't taste any of it. You won't taste any of it. It can't get in. It's on the surface. So get the salt on well in advance because it can get in. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff. Now, with that said, most bottled rubs that you buy have both spices and herbs and salt in it, and that's for a lot of reasons. For one, it's hard to explain to people on the back of a label that you don't need to do all this in advance and the concepts I just explained here. Plus, salt is cheap. So if you make a rub or a blend and put in 50% salt, you drive the price down. Oh, that reminds me. See this? See this? We now officially, we're not going to announce this publicly until November 5th. So you're the first to know. I have told our members of our Pitmaster Club, but we now have 3 rubs that we've worked very hard on. There's a pork, a poultry, and a red meat rub. And I'll tell you, I, all my life, have never put anything other than salt and pepper on a steak. And I won't cook a steak anymore without this red meat rub. It is just awesome. The pork rub is just really nice. And so is the poultry rub. And with Thanksgiving coming up, that poultry rub is going to amp up your turkey. It's really good. And just today, our sauce came on the market. Today, we have links. Go to AmazingRibs.com/flavor, and there's links to where you can buy these. And I haven't announced it officially. It won't be announced officially till the 5th, so you're the first to know. Well, the second to know. I told the Pitmaster Club about a month ago. Okay, so let's see. Thanks for getting me started on that topic there. Hello from Oregon. He's got color already. Yeah, we're not getting much color here. Hello from Mississippi, says Brian. Traverse City Cherry Festival. I told that story. New Zealand, Richie Tito Kawaro Elliott from New Zealand. Hello. You folks, I have a programmer in New Zealand, just outside of Christchurch. He's my lead PHP and JavaScript programmer. Vienna, West Virginia. Traverse City, San Jose. My goodness, you're from all over. Santa Clara. Have you reviewed the Bradley smokers? I think we have. There's a way to tell. Go to Amazing Ribs and type in Bradley smokers in the search box. I think we have. I've played with them. I'm not a big fan. The way they work, it's an electric smoker, and the heat comes from electricity. and then it generates smoke by these little hockey pucks made out of wood. And I'm not a huge fan of electric smokers. The wood smolders and you get a smoke flavor, but the best flavor you'll get is when there's combustion, when there's actual not just smoldering, combustion. There's flame. That's how you get the best flavor, and that comes from burning logs or burning charcoal. Also, gas will do that fairly well if you put wood on gas, because the wood will combust. The thing about the electrics is there's no real combustion. The wood just smolders, and smoldering wood makes a nice flavor, but not as good a flavor as burning wood. And when you get burning wood, if you get it done right, you get what we call blue smoke. And blue smoke is the best tasting smoke. So I'm not a huge fan of electric smokers, and that includes the Bradley. But it does taste good. Most smoke tastes good. Yeah, Kevin Holmes Liddell. Kevin, I see you every month here. Thanks for coming by again. He talks about putting cornmeal under the pizza. I told a story at the start here about a problem I had with a pizza tonight. Yeah, that's like putting ball bearings under the pizza. It really helps it slide off. Ben Clino uses semolina. That's what I use tonight. Yeah, happy to know that it happens to even. Yeah, oh gosh, I'm always experimenting, and my wife will attest. I make a lot of mistakes. We keep the carry out order for the Chinese restaurants, the pizza joints, and the local barbecue joints handy, because I have made many disasters. Nathan is asking me to talk turkey for Thanksgiving, and I thought that's what I would do next month. In fact, I think what we're going to do, normally these events are the last Thursday of the month, but that's Thanksgiving next month. So we're going to have this event, this little session next month. Let me check the calendar here. It's not going to be, we're going to do these fires on the 18th. So that's not the last Thursday as normal. The last Thursday is the 25th, and that's Thanksgiving. So we're going to be a week early. Next month we'll be on the 18th. And I will definitely get deep into turkey there. But I have written at length about turkey on AmazingRibs.com. And there is this massive article. And just this week, I published, let me get it up here on the screen. Let's see if I can get this. I'm not going to bother. We've been publishing on ebooks and you can, if you see them on the scroll at the bottom of the screen in blue, Sous Vide Q Made Easy. It's an ebook for $3.99. It's on a Kindle, and eventually I'm going to have it on Barnes & Noble, Nook, and Apple. I'm trying to work out the technical stuff. It's confusing me. Ribs ebook. We have a chicken ebook, and this week I published my turkey ebook. And it's got everything you ever wanted to know about buying turkey, prepping turkey, cooking turkey, including deep frying turkey, making Disney turkey legs. It's all in this little $3.99 ebook on Amazon, and it's at https://tiny URL, there it goes right now, .com/Turkey Made Easy, all one word, Turkey Made Easy, and you can download that ebook there. That'll get you started in just about everything. We have a lot of articles on AmazingRibs.com about turkey. The nice thing about this ebook is it's got them all together under one cover. And I'm an old-fashioned guy. Books have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I can take you through a process in an organized fashion. Whereas if you just go to my article on smoking turkey, it's going to take you here and take you there, and it's not easy to get it all in one organized fashion. So I'd recommend that you... now, if you're a member of the Pitmaster Club, we will have it available free in the Pitmaster Club. I haven't done it. It's another technical thing I got to learn how to do, but it'll be there shortly. Mike LaCharite from... Mike, I always mispronounce your last name. and I've heard it pronounced properly 100 times, and I always get it wrong. But Mike is from the International Sous Vide Association, and he knows how to cook. And if you're into sous vide, you need to check that out and get in there. I'm a member. I've learned so much. There's some really talented chefs there. Let's see. Jennifer Warnick. She won't let her kids eat ketchup on the hot dogs. That's good training. You know, it's funny, Julie LaPlante. Whenever I joke about no ketchup on hot dogs, I get more people agitated. Yeah, you're a little agitated. Y'all need to stop gatekeeping hot dogs. People can eat whatever they want on hot dogs. Go right ahead. You know, I love to say there's no rules in the bedroom or kitchen. But here in Chicago, we don't put ketchup on hot dogs, and it's a local rule, and I kind of agree. So, you know, it's just my opinion, and everybody else who lives, not everybody, most everybody in the Chicago area. But my gosh, you know, I have an article, and it's a humor article. It's clearly humor. It's clearly full of jokes and humor. I mean, there's this marvelous quote from Dirty Harry, the movie, where he complains about people. He's talking about a murder he just seen, a bloody gore, and the one thing that really gores him is people putting ketchup on hot dogs. And it's just funny, and the whole thing. And you know what? People get pissed. They get really upset. So my theory is putting ketchup on hot dogs destroys your sense of humor. Okay. It's a joke. Okay. Kevin, I'm not going to retell that story. Jim Cheshire says it looks like I'm losing some weight. I wish it were true, Jim. Thank you for the compliment. Not true. Yeah, Jennifer Warnick talks about flank steak for fajitas. I agree. A lot of people do skirt steak for fajitas. The problem with skirt steak is it's so skinny that if you want it dark on the outside and pink in the center, it's almost impossible to do that. You got to have really, really hot heat. And what I do when I want to do a skirt steak that way is I cook it on top of a charcoal chimney. And if you haven't heard me talk about it or seen it, I call it the afterburner technique. But you get a charcoal chimney and you fill it halfway or more with charcoal and you put a cooking grate on top. And that's really, I mean, that's like the back end of a jet engine. And you can then put a skirt steak on there, and you can get it dark and crispy on the exterior and still retain pink or rosy color in the center. But on a standard grill, even a hot charcoal grill, it's really hard to keep it, you know, if you want it dark and crunchy or crispy on the outside, you're going to be overdone in the center. So flank steak, since it's thicker, is easier to do that way. And, if you want to see... God, I ought to play that movie for you. Stand by 30 seconds. I'm going to go looking for a video. It's fairly short, but it's worth watching. Let's see. Google. Go to YouTube. Stand by. I'm going to find this. How I like to cook flank steak. This is pretty cool. Let's see. There it is. I call it the vigneron method. Okay, let's see if I can get it. Stand by. I'm going to try to screen share here. Yeah, that's the button. Okay. I think you guys can see that. Stand by. I got to go back to the... They often have grapevine cuttings, and they burn the grapevine cuttings. They burn very fast, and they cook over them. Well, I've got some grapevines growing along the fence line in my yard,
And every year I prune them back, which you have to do in order to get good grapes, and I save the cuttings. Now, I think this would probably work with any fruit wood or hardwood or nut wood, but I use grapevines every year. I've got a stack of them under my deck. So we start with a Weber kettle, we clean out all the ash, and we throw some newspaper in the bottom. And then we pile on the grapevine cuttings. These are all a year old, they're dry, they're crisp, they're crunchy, and I cram as many as it can fit in there. I try to get them away from the edges so that I can put the cooking surface, the grate, on top, and jam them all down in there. And this is going to not only create a great deal of heat, but smoke. And as we know, the best flavored smokes are from hardwoods and fruit woods and nut woods. So we're going to get a really hot, well over 1,000-degree fire. I light it from below, get the newspaper lit, and within just a few minutes, you can see it starts to ignite. And when it ignites, holy cow, it ignites. Now, don't panic. I'm a good 1.5 foot or so from that railing there, and a good 2 or 3 feet from the house. And there's not a lot of wind today, so I'm not endangering my house, and there's always a fire extinguisher handy. But you're going to see some serious flame. And the thing is you're working against the clock. This thing flames up, and in less than 5 minutes, those big old monster flames burn down, and you have these little embers in the bowl of the grill, and that's what you want to cook on. Now that flame is too large and too hot to cook on right now, and it'll deposit soot on the food. So I wait for it to die down. It takes only a few minutes, and there we got a decent size, and on goes the flank steak. And I use flank steak for this technique because flank steak is really good when cooked hot and fast, and it's not real thick, because once this dies down to embers, the embers only last about 5 minutes. So you've got at most 10 to 15 minutes of cooking time available at extremely high heat. And you get all this wonderful flavor. You build this incredible crust. So after a couple of minutes, we take a look. We've got some nice color. We flip it over. Now that was probably no more than 4 or 5 minutes elapsed time there. And we're going to give it 4 or 5 minutes more on this side, get a good sear. Now, a lot of times I don't have to put a cover on it, but I noticed that the vine twigs are burning down. So I put the cover on just to capture a little heat and push some energy down into it, roast it a little more. So the cover went on for about 4 or 5 minutes is all, and then we pop it off and we check the temperature, and look at there, 134. That's perfect medium rare, 130 to 135, and that was in the thin end. You know, flank steak tends to have a thin end and a thick end. So look what I do. I take the thin end and I hover it out over the cool air, and the thick end remains over the embers. And look, those embers are down. There's not much left. It's still very hot down in there, but we're almost done cooking. And a total elapsed time now is maybe 10, 15 minutes. We check the thick end, and there it is, 132. We're done. We take this baby off, and look at it. There's nothing but ash. Again, total elapsed time, 15, 20 minutes now at the most. That's the end result. Look at that gorgeous color. Beautiful mahogany color, edge to edge, a little bit of char. We put a cut into it. Now, you always cut flank steak across the grain. See the grain running from left to right, and I'm cutting across the grain, and that way you'll have an easier chew. And there it is, perfect medium rare to rare in the center. It's going to carry over, cook another few degrees. That's the final product there, ready for eating. Cooking the vigneron method over twigs from AmazingRibs.com. Come visit our website.
Well, that's the first time I've tried to show a video on a session like this. I hope you were able to see it and hear it. Were you? Will somebody just tell me if you were able to see it and hear it? Troy Belanger is saying, impressive flank steak video. I hope you were able to hear it, because it was just playing through the radio. I have a Bose radio hooked up here. Yeah, that's a fire. Hey, Brad Ledwith. Yeah, there you are. Yeah, okay. So you were able to hear? Oh, that's great. Wasn't that fun? I do that. I love doing that with flank steak. And you get the smoke flavor. You get a great char, crunchy surface. I don't know if you noticed when I was trying to cut into it. I had trouble cutting through the bottom crust. It's just really fun. And Kevin says he heard it fine. Okay, good. That's great. Yeah, you can do something like that. You'd have to schlep a bunch of grapevines to the tailgater. You just can't get that kind of heat out of charcoal, unfortunately. But it's just a fun technique, and certainly is spectacular. It's an eye catcher. Let me scroll back and see if I've missed any important questions. Let's see. Nathan Trissel is Trissel. I'm sorry if I got your name wrong, Nathan. He's talking about slaw dogs from Western Virginia. I've got a good recipe for slaw dogs on the site. They put coleslaw on their hot dogs out there. The regional styles of hot dogs are just great fun. And go visit AmazingRibs.com and look up. Just type hot dog road trip into the search engine. I don't know if you've poked around there, but back in April, we moved the website from a program called Drupal to a program called WordPress, and the search functions are much better. It's so much easier to find things on our website now. The website's functioning a lot better. Navigation's a lot better. It's just a lot better than it was a year ago. Okay. Mike Hahn's asking, for poultry, how will salt penetrate through the skin? Well, there's a lot of fat in the skin, but it's not all fat. And salt can actually penetrate fat. It's this miraculous material. It gets these electrical charges. So yes, salt will penetrate turkey skin, chicken skin. It does slow it down a bit. Fat does slow the penetration, but it goes right on through. It's amazing. Salt is the magic rock. Jennifer's asking, I'm not sure I'm following your question, but about the height above which you sprinkle. There's this guy in Manhattan who's got a restaurant who makes a big show of sprinkling the salt. But, the higher you are, the more widespread the salt dissipates and more evenly. And I usually go 3, 4, 5 inches, and I think Jennifer is in the same camp. And that is one of the reasons I like using Morton's kosher salt. It's a larger grain and it's easier to grip and spread than table salt. Brian's asking what I'm drinking tonight. Brian, I had a Chilean Carmenere, and I killed it before the session started. So I'm drinking Eau de Lake, Michigan here, or something like that. Brian Ledwith is an investment counselor for LDL, which is the same outfit that handles my little minor investments out on the West Coast, and he's quite a cook, and did his own home cookbook, which he was kind enough to send me a copy, and he even mentioned me in it. And he's quite a wine geek like I am. I don't know if you folks know, but prior to my switch to solid food in the year 2000, I was the wine critic for the Washington Post and the Chicago Tribune. So I'm a wino as well as a food guy. Greg Rempe. Oh, hey, gosh, guys. If you don't know about Greg Rempe, Greg has a Barbecue Central radio show. It's just Google Barbecue Central. Every Tuesday night, he does 2 hours on the air, live, interviews everybody who's anybody in the bar, and gets really great information. He is the preeminent barbecue and grilling podcaster, and you need to listen to him, although he eats hot dogs with ketchup, so maybe don't go. Other than that, he's a great guy. We're going to try to get him in the Barbecue Hall of Fame this year. Do I sell pre-made ribs? No, Robbie, I don't sell ribs. These rubs and sauces are the first products that we are actually selling. And actually, I'm not even selling it myself. We have another company that's handling the sales. I don't like to be in the retail. We review and test products, and I just don't. If you're going to review products, you can't be selling products. So we're having these products made to our specifications and sold by another company, but I don't even sell my book. If you want to buy my book, go to Amazon. So no, we don't sell ribs. Although I got to tell you, if you don't refer to our website as AmazingRibs.com, if you refer to it as Amazing Ribs, I get phone calls at 10 o'clock at night asking if we deliver. Billy Gilbert's asking, are smoking pellets regulated, and if not, should they be? I've had serious issues with my favorite brand lately. Oh dear, I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know what kind of issues you've had with your favorite brand, but no, they're not regulated in any fashion that I'm aware of. And I don't know that we need more regulation in this country. I believe there are things that our government needs to regulate, and there are things that our government probably shouldn't regulate. I'm not going to get into the politics of that, but the pellet market, pellets tend to be almost always at least 50% oak, and that's because oak is really easy to compress into pellets. It burns evenly, and then the rest of it tends to be whatever the flavor is. So if it's cherry or maple or whatever, 50% oak and the rest is the flavor. It varies from company to company. I believe I've heard that Traeger uses a flavored oil on their pellets. The manufacturers are supposed to clean the machines to make sure that the lubricants are not contaminating the pellets, and when they're using the pellets were originally, they're made out of sawdust. I mean, you go down to the sawmill where they're making 2x4s or they're making cabinetry, and you collect all the sawdust and you bring them back and you compress them and extrude them through these machines. And they were originally made for heating ovens, and they were really popular in the Pacific Northwest and the Northeast, up in Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont. And you can buy these like fireplace ovens that will heat your house, and that's what they originally made for. And then I don't know, about 20-30 years ago, Traeger and a few other guys cleaned their machines out so that there would be no petroleum lubricants, and used vegetable oil and other lubricants, and started making pellets for cooking. And then, as we know, pellet cookers have taken off, and they're marvelous devices. I absolutely adore. I have a Mac 2-star pellet cooker. I love it. I've played with others. Max Good, who is our official grill and smoker tester, has put hands on maybe 40 of them, and they're all reviewed on our website. There are some that are really extraordinary, others that are not. And if you're in the market for one, you should absolutely go to AmazingRibs.com and read Max's reviews before you plunk down your hard-earned cash. But there are now a great number of people making these pellets. I use Barbecuer's Delight, and I've used them for many years, and I've never had any problems with them. I believe there are other brands that may be cheaper. I've never really worried about it. I know they work. I've never had jam-ups or problems due to that. I'd be kind of curious, Billy, if you could tell us more about what the issues you're having with your favorite brand, and go ahead, name them by name. Can you explain the difference with flank, flap, and skirt steak cuts? All similar but very different textures. Yeah, they are similar, Rich Karsh. They're all from the chest and belly area of the animal, and they have this long striated fibers, and they tend to be fairly lean, and they tend to be fairly tough because they're hard-working muscles. Flap and skirt tend to be very thin, and I was mentioning earlier that makes them a little hard to cook properly, because if you like dark crusts, which I do, and you like them pink to rosy in the center, which I do, it's really hard to get thin steaks to cook properly. I'm always telling my wife, if she's, sees a sale on steaks, get them thick, don't get them thin. Most steaks, chops, lamb chops, pork chops, try for at least an inch thick so you can cook them properly. Lately, I absolutely adore a flank steak because it has such a wonderfully beefy flavor, because these are hard-working muscles. But because they're so lean, they can be dry, especially if you overcook them. About a year ago, I bought Wagyu flank steak from Allen Brothers, and it's, I've done Wagyu ribeyes and sirloins and other things, and actually Wagyu can almost be too fatty for me. I prefer prime to Wagyu. Wagyu can be really rich and unctuous and fatty, but the Wagyu flank steak is just a whole new game. It's not horribly expensive. It is more expensive than regular flank, which can be an inexpensive cut. But if you really want to have some fun and treat yourself, get yourself some Wagyu flank steak. Allen Brothers sells it. That's where I buy it. They're online sell. They have a catalog. They make marvelous meats. And if you like aged meats, aged steaks, they have the most incredible aging. I've toured their aging facilities. Huge aging lockers, up to 70, 80 day aged. They sell other meats, heritage pork and the things, but I buy primarily beef from them, and I'll tell you, their Wagyu flank steak is just a revelation, and that's what I was cooking in that picture there, in that video. Yeah, Brad Ledwith saying he put his skirt steak right on the charcoal. That's a great way to get really intense heat. I don't like to do that. I would rather put the grate right down on top of the charcoal. You just always get bits of charcoal and char and ash when I put meat on the charcoal, even if you blow it off and you're using the... And you get hot spots, you get burnt spots, and so I'll put the grate right down next to the charcoal, maybe even laying on top. But I don't want the meat physically contacting the charcoal. I know that's a popular technique. They call it the caveman technique. I just want it the half inch above is all. Okay, Daniel Lavoie. And I think I've seen you here before, Daniel. Thank you for coming. I just got a PK360. That's a really good charcoal grill, by the way. And one of the things I love about it is it's this large rectangular shape, so it's really easy to set up in two zones. A hot zone with all the charcoal, and then an indirect zone. And if you've been here before, if you've been to my website, you know it is absolutely essential. It is a requirement of any grill that you be able to set it up in two zones. If you can't set up a grill in two zones, don't buy it. PK360 is easy to set up in two zones, and also the distance between the charcoal and the grate is very shallow, so you can get the charcoal right up next to the grate very easily and get 2 or 3 layers of charcoal, get a lot of intense heat. Love that machine. He was thinking about using it with a sous vide to do brisket for Thanksgiving. Do you recommend I smoke it before or after the sous vide? I do talk about that in my little ebook, Sous Vide Q Made Easy. If you smoke before, as you know, if you've done sous vide, a lot of liquid comes out of the meat in the bag. And that tends to wash off a lot of the smoke flavor. A lot of the smoke flavor is actually particles sitting on the surface, and it washes off. I'm a strong, you can smoke before, and it doesn't impact it, but I'm a strong believer in do your smoking and your seasoning afterwards. Put all the seasoning you want on it, and then you put it in the bag and sous vide it. It's not going to penetrate. It doesn't, you see all these sous vide recipes where there's oils and lemons and rubs and stuff. I just don't think that they make a big difference. They make a big difference if you do it afterwards. Take it out of the sous vide, and all the top sous vide guys say, after you sous vide, chill it down, put it in the fridge, ice it down, put it in the fridge. Really improves the flavor, and I agree with them. And then when you take it out of the bag, that's when you season it. That's when you smoke it. That's when you sear it. That's when you add surface flavor. The sous vide process is the way to make the inside of the meat tender, juicy, and elegant. But the outside of the meat sucks. And so when it comes out of the bag, that's when you go to work on the exterior. And you go to work on the exterior, you can throw it in the smoker. All it needs is 30 minutes. It'll get plenty of smoke, especially if it's cold when it goes in there. Cold meat attracts smoke. So you chill it down, you throw it in the fridge, you come back the next day, onto the smoker for 30 minutes, then into the hot cast iron, or onto a hot grill for searing, or you season it. Do all your exterior flavoring after the sous vide. And if you want more on this subject, go to tinyurl.com/sous-vide-q. I think that, watch the crawl, it'll come up and tell you what it is. But that's the ebook I did for $3.99 on Amazon, in which I talk about it. Or joining the National Sous Vide Association. That's Mike's site. And Mike is here, and I don't know, let's see, Mike is here on Facebook, Daniel, you're on YouTube, okay, so, but check out that Sous Vide Association. They're really cool, and they really know their stuff. But I like to do all the flavoring afterwards. Okay, let's keep going here. Jim Cheshire says he watched the video while he was eating some smoked lamb chops. Yeah, I'm a big fan of grilling lamb chops, but I've just never been a big fan of smoking them. I don't know why. It doesn't see. I'm not crazy about the flavor combos, but it's one of the few meats I don't smoke. But boy, I love grilling them, and I tell you, there is nothing like a rack of lamb grilled hot and fast. Or I like to cut them into 2-bone. You get a rack of lamb. There's 8 bones in it. Rack of lamb is the same as a ribeye. It's the rib section with the longissimus dorsi, or the loin meat attached. And there's 8 bones in a rack of lamb, and it maybe weighs 2 pounds or something. But I'll cut them every second bone, so you get 4 2-bone thicknesses. And there's 2 little bones coming out, and I'll snap one off or cut it off with a bolt cutter, and that way it's like a lollipop, and you grill them hot and fast. You can season them up, and by the way, my red meat rub is awesome on lamb. But you can do, a lot of people like to do breadcrumbs, seasoned breadcrumbs, garlic, they'll put down a mustard base and then put the breadcrumbs on top. Have fun with them. But I like to sear them hot and fast. And boy, that is a tender, juicy piece of meat. The lamb is a young piece of animal, and it's really good. The other piece of meat off the lamb that I'm a huge fan of is the loin chops, which are actually T-bones or porterhouses. And they usually are about 1.5 inches thick. And also grill them hot and fast. So tender, so juicy. And I have a neat recipe for those guys. I have it's called sheep dip. I don't do many marinades, but there's a marinade I do for this that really works nice. Kevin is asking, do I know kalpan? No, I don't. I don't know what kalpan is. Okay, Cool J77. Will fine ground rub seasoning inhibit smoke penetration? Also, will a thick and heavy rub also reduce smoke penetration? No. Smoke really doesn't penetrate much. Smoke is mostly a surface treatment. Smoke is, if you analyze what's in smoke, there's a lot of water vapor in smoke. There's some carbon monoxide, nitric oxide, a number of small gases, and then there's particles, tiny particles. If you're getting very thin, barely visible blue smoke, it's really, really tiny particles. White smoke has bigger particles. Black smoke has huge particles. The amount of smoke that you see is dependent on how large the particles are. But the particles will stick to the surface. And actually, a rough surface, like caused by rub, will help the smoke hold. So a rub will actually help attract smoke. The best thing you can do is use cold surface. And I've talked about this before, and if you've heard this before, I'll try not to bore you. But when you get out of the shower, your mirror is all fogged up, and that's because the mirror is cold, and the moisture particles from the steam are small and they're hot, and they're attracted to a cold surface, and it's a reaction called thermophoresis, and the same thing happens with food. If you take food like meat out of the fridge and go straight to the smoker, more smoke will adhere. It will be attracted to the cold surface via thermophoresis. If you leave it sit at room temperature, which is a wonderful way to grow bacteria, and it will warm up, you will get less smoke adhesion. So right from the fridge onto the smoker will get you more smoke flavor. Wet surfaces, it will stick to the wet surface better. And rough surfaces with a rub, it will stick to the rub surface better. So don't worry about your rub. And it doesn't penetrate much. Some of the gases, the nitric oxide and the carbon monoxide, is what causes the myoglobin to remain pink. And then when the myoglobin in the muscles remain pink, that is how you get your smoke ring, which is pink. Everything else, the myoglobin turns tan or brown, and that's a natural process in cooking. So smoke does not penetrate very deep, and you can test this again. Pork loin or a turkey breast. Throw them on the smoker. Put all your herbs and spices that you want on there. Smoke it up. When it gets done, pull it off. Slice it. Wipe the surface, because when you slice it, you'll push some of the flavor from the surface down in. Wipe the interior surface. Take a core sampler. You will not taste any of the herbs and spices. Zero, none, nada. I'll bet you a week's pay that's the case. And you won't smell any smoke down in there. It just doesn't get down in. It's a surface treatment. Okay, Billy Gilbert, the issues I was having was burn back into the auger, a massive clinking in the fire pot. Bear Mountain Apple and Gourmet, never had that issue last spring. All right, burn back may not be related to your pellets. May be related to the way it feeds. I'm not as knowledgeable about this as Max Good is. Max is the guy who tests grills and smokers for us for a living. I'd highly recommend, Billy, that you go to AmazingRibs.com and go to one of the web pages about pellets, and maybe go to the. All right, you're using a RecTech 680. Go to the page about RecTech 680 and ask Max about this problem and see if he knows. Now, is the RecTech 680? Hold on, I got to look it up. Is that the, wait a second, if that's what I think it is. I'm looking up the Rectech 680. No, that's not the unit I was thinking. To my knowledge, that's a pretty good smoker. There was one model of the Rectech, I forget the name, that we had a real problem with burn back, and it was a flaw in the smoker, not the pellets. But that's not the one you have, and I don't know. But I would ask Max. Mike is saying that the Allen Brothers Wagyu flank steak is life-changing. Best flank steak available, mind-blowing. Well, thank you for underscoring me. Yeah, I'm glad you've tried it. Allen Brothers has really great meats, and their flank steak, it's not overly fatty and unctuous like the ribeyes and stuff. It's just perfect. Daniel Lavoie is saying that's why he bought the PK360. He read our review. Yeah. Jennifer Warnick is asking about sous vide pastrami. You can sous vide pastrami. Pastrami begins, essentially, I'm going to give this simple. The simple version is, to make good pastrami, is you start with a beef brisket, and then it is cured, and it's cured using a curing agent, pink salt, and that's sodium nitrite mixed in with salt, and that turns it into corned beef. Once you've got corned beef, then you put a rub on it, and there's a secret to the rub, and I have nailed that secret, and I have that rub recipe on AmazingRibs.com, and it's totally awesome. And you put that rub on it, and then you smoke it, and you've got pastrami. Now, you can sous vide it, what I would do is after you've got the corned beef, it can be very salty. I would soak it in cold water in the fridge for a few hours or overnight, and that will pull out the excess salt. Then sous vide it, and that will cook it through, and it will make it really tender and really juicy and fully cooked. Then you pull it out, put the rub on it, and then you smoke it for an hour or 2 or 3. Or actually, you can do the extra step. After you've sous vide'd it, chill it. The top sous vide people, Mike LaCharite. Oh, God, Mike, I'm sorry. You're going to have to send me an email or post it, how I can pronounce your name. I always screw it up. Mike and all these guys who really know their sous vide better than I do, they're all advocates of, after you sous vide, throw it in a bowl of ice water, chill it down rapidly, and then put it in the fridge for a few hours at least, or overnight. And that seems to really help the flavors and the moisture. Then you reheat it. And the beauty of this is you can come back and reheat it a week later. I mean, because it's in a vacuum sealed bag, you can freeze it and come back. So you're all fully cooked. And then you can throw it on the smoker. And as little as an hour is all it really takes to get a good smoke flavor. So that's a fun technique. Yes, Troy, Allen Brothers. You can Google them. They have a website, and they have just really good beef products. Jason Pettis is asking if Wagyu Eye of Round would be noticeably different. Seems like it might be lean and tough, even on an animal predisposed to marbling. That's a good question. I've not done Eye of Round. But when you think about it, flank steak is, one of those tough cuts because it's a hard-working muscle, just like Eye of Round. And it makes a difference. It's just not as fatty and rich as the ribeye. But it just adds enough fat. So I wouldn't be surprised if Wagyu Eye of Round is a notch above. All right, so just so you know, the grading of meat, the way the USDA grades meat, they have, for general discussion, we'll say select, choice, top choice, which most people don't know about, prime. Now, those are the USDA grades, but Wagyu, which is not a USDA grade, is essentially a grade above prime. And what they do is they go into the rib, the rib roast. That's this muscle along my back here that runs next to the spine. It's that long muscle that runs right next to your spine, called the spinalis dorsi. You have one, rather the longissimus dorsi. The longissimus, long dorsi, back muscle, the long back muscle. And you've got two of them, one on either side of your spine. You know where they are. And so does the steer, and so does a lamb, and so does a hog. They all have this long muscle along their back. Even fish have it. They'll go into that, which is the rib roast, from which ribeye steaks are cut, and they'll slice in there, and they'll look at it, and they'll gauge the amount of fat within the meat, not on top of the meat, within the meat. The marbling, it's called. How much fat is inside the muscle. And they grade the animal based on how much fat. And they can do it by memory or by eye, but I think I've showed this. Let's see if I've got it handy here. I can show it to you again. Don't go away. That's pork. Here you go. You like my camera? It tries to follow me, huh? Official USDA marbling photographs from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association for the United States Department of Agriculture. So this is the standard, and unzip this little pouch. And so here we have, oh, my camera is going to try to focus on my face. Slightly abundant, moderate, modest, all these different grades here. Small, slight. So they have all these cards here, and I don't think I have them all here in my hand. Oh, I left a few in the bag. And I've got pictures of these on the website. And here you've got moderately abundant. And you can see there's more, that marbling is within the meat. Ignore the surface fat. I mean, I've said this before, but I'll repeat it again. The surface fat is fat. Fat is oil. Meat is 75% water. Oil and water don't mix. I don't care what you've heard, what you've read, what you've been told. Oops. The surface fat cannot penetrate into the interior of the meat. Oil and water don't mix. That surface fat can melt, it can base the surface, but it cannot get into the meat. It cannot get into the meat. And this goes for your brisket, your pork roast, or anything. And a lot of books say you want to leave the fat cap on because it will moisturize the meat. That's wrong. It's not true. It just doesn't happen. What does moisturize the meat is, oh boy, this camera. Yoo-hoo, camera. It's the marbling within the muscle that moisturizes the meat. And so let's see, we got a comparison here. There we go. See if I can hold one on either side of my face. Look at the differences. This one's got a lot more marbling than this one. This one will be tougher and drier. This one will be more tender and juicy. Okay? And those are the charts they use, and those are ribeyes. Now, they take the measurement in the ribeye, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be more marbled throughout the animal. Now, in general, if the ribeye is more heavily marbled, then the brisket might be and probably will be more heavily marbled, and so might the flank steak and the eye of round. But there's no guarantee. So, now I mentioned prime is the top USDA grade. Wagyu is a breed, and in fact, in the United States, these Wagyu, it started with a Japanese breed. You've heard of Kobe beef and the types of breeds that they use for Kobe. They brought them over here, and they're crossbred, usually with Black Angus. Wagyu is usually a crossbreed of a Japanese steer with a Black Angus in the U.S. A week from tonight, if you are a member of our Pitmaster Club, we are hosting one of these sessions, a live session with people from Snake River Farms, who are famous for their Wagyu. Also, a chef, a really top chef from Seattle, and a top competition cook who cooks with Wagyu. And we're going to have a roundtable discussion. We're going to talk about Wagyu beef and different cuts. So if you're not now yet a member of our Pitmaster Club, you should consider joining and coming to that session a week from tonight at 7:30. The information is in the Pitmaster Club. And even if you haven't paid for membership, if you take the 30-day free trial, you can come. So go to AmazingRibs.com/Pitmaster, take the 30-day free trial, and come to our session on Wagyu beef. We do these every couple of months. Really good deep dive sessions, and this should be a really good one if you're interested in Wagyu beef and the different kinds. And that question, I would bet anything they can answer. Yeah, Kevin Holmes is pointing out that there's a camera that grades the meat now. They do. They have actually cameras that can measure it, that they don't have to do it by eye. It looks like Don Geiger has posted a link to Allen Brothers. I'm guessing I can't. I'm guessing that's a link directly to the flank steak. If it is, go there. Hey Kevin, your Facebook logo is going to be out of date pretty soon. Did you hear, guys? Facebook is no longer Facebook. It's now Meta. They're changing their name. But will they change their ways? Michael Goldman he says top round, bottom round, sirloin, tip, etc. Discuss each and what you recommend. None of them are great steaks. They all have a lot of good beefy flavor, but all of them are hard-working muscles, and all of them tend to be fairly lean. So they're going to be less expensive. They're going to be a little tougher than, say, a ribeye, and they're going to require careful cooking to make it tender and juicy. And careful cooking means I recommend a thick cut and low and slow. The lower the temperature, the more tender the meat will be. High temperatures, the proteins shrink and squeeze out the juices. So if you're going to cook one of those like sirloin steaks are just not going to be as tender and juicy as ribeye steaks or even strip steaks. They both have more marbling and they are more tender and more juicy. The tenderloin is the most tender, but interestingly, it is tender because it doesn't work hard. It doesn't have much marbling. It doesn't have much fat. And I'm not a big fan of tenderloin. A lot of people think it's the best. It makes filet mignon. I'm not a big fan of it. I prefer ribeye or strip steak, or even T-bone or porterhouse. But sirloin makes a nice tasting piece of meat. You just can't cook it hot and fast. If you can, get it about 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick. Cook it at a low temperature. If you're doing it on the grill, I really strongly recommend reverse sear. That is, start it indirect, warm it gently to about 120, 125 at the most. Then put it over high heat, lift the lid, flip, get that exterior really good and dark, or throw it in a hot cast iron pan and sear it at the end. fast, quick searing on the exterior, and you should be off and running with a really nice piece of beef. Oh, I see. Nachum Gershon is saying Meta is the new name of the parent company, like Alphabet is Google. Oh, that's good to know. There's been hype on social media about wrapping brisket with beef tallow, using your reasoning, neither fat cap nor tallow right. Just not getting in. It's not getting in. It's just not getting in. Well, let's see. We normally do these for about an hour and a half, and we're about 10 minutes left. And I've reached the bottom of the list of questions. Hit me with a few more. Otherwise, permit me to do a brief commercial here, if I may, and remind you, we're having a gathering in Memphis March 20th, and hopefully by then, COVID will be a bad memory in our past, and it should be a lot of fun. Go to AmazingRibs.com/Memphis. Read about the cool events and tastings and speakers we have. It should be fantastic. It's going to be pork-centric, since Memphis is famous for pork. And it'll be a fun weekend of barbecue in Memphis. I've mentioned the Pitmaster Club. There are a lot of benefits to membership, including our ebooks are there for free, and there's some magazines, Barbecue News, Tailgater, and others are for free. A lot of good stuff, a lot of recipes, and we patrol it with a vengeance. There are no flame wars. There is no politics. There is no race, religion, politics. It's strictly cooking and food. Yeah, we got a couple of side sections where people tell jokes and stuff, but we just don't allow this nasty stuff. It's not like Facebook. It's not like other forums. And I think that's what people like. It's civil. And we have had to, unfortunately, since we were founded in 2014, had to throw out about one person a year. That's all. 17,700 members. We've probably thrown 7 people out for violations of our civility rules. You will enjoy its pleasant atmosphere and discussion sessions. Of course, you probably are aware of my book. It is the best-selling barbecue book in the world right now. And I'm working on a sequel. You can sign up for our newsletter, Smoke Signals, and I'll keep you posted as to what new articles. We're searching for a new editor. David Joachim, our editor for the past 5, 6, 7 years, tremendous guy, has been offered a position that he can't refuse. They threw a lot of money at him, and even stock in a new startup company. And I'm losing my editor next month, so we're looking for a new editor. If you are a skilled editor and know a bit about cooking, I would love to talk to you. What else do I need to tell you about? That's about it for now. Let's see, we got a few more questions coming up. Jeff Tracy's here. Jeff is a radio broadcaster out of Oregon, and we post rebroadcasts of his barbecue centric shows. He does like an hour, I think, every week. I'm a frequent guest, and we have rebroadcasts of a selection of his in our Pitmaster Club. Hello, Jeff. And let's see what else. You guys are funny. All right, well, I think we've covered just about all the questions and comments, and I have never seen this hot young quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, and he's on TV tonight playing the Green Bay Packers. And since Aaron Rodgers now owns the Chicago Bears, and if you're a football fan, you know what I mean, I'd like to go excuse myself and go see if this hot young quarterback from Arizona is any good. I thank you very much for your joining me again tonight. This is always fun, and if you want to join us a week from tonight in our Pitmaster Club session on Wagyu Steaks, come on down, join the Pitmaster Club, or at least take the 30-day trial, and you can come in and join that session. And we don't even ask for your credit card on the trial. Just log in, and we'll see you not the last Thursday next month, because that's Thanksgiving. It will be the week prior. I think I said it was the 18th, and we'll be back then, and we'll be talking turkey. So see you then.
That's all for now, folks. Thanks for staying awake, and please visit AmazingRibs.com for the articles, recipes, and reviews mentioned in this chat with the Barbecue Whisperer and Hedonism Evangelist from AmazingRibs.com, the planet's biggest and baddest barbecue and grilling website, Meathead.
It's a game of time and time. You can hurry ribs. No, you just have to wait. Just trust in the low and slow, no matter how